Man, it took me forever to type that. So yeah, want to share a video. Hopefully, those who can't watch it now will tune in later on. A lot of people do. So people tune in. So I just got something to say about the up and coming Sankofa journey. One of our members made me a little folder, Levator, shout out. Keep everything organized. They say wherever you go, you need to be office ready. Hey man, you are the office. You should be able to work off site. Take your networking system, your tablet, computers, your cell phones. We use these devices to take care of business. Send an email, trade money. Man, the technology. You remember the days without this technology when you just get on, you got a regular phone. You might have some upgrades, three-way calling, call waiting, and different stuff that they would add in. I'm talking about in the 80s. Or when people had a cell phone, but then they had the real big cell phones that you had to plug into the car. Then you had the generation of beepers and pagers, so where you had to call somebody back. But yeah, this technology, man, we are office ready wherever we go. You have your laptop, your tablet, your phone. You can conduct business. So that's what I'm talking about today. Again, shout out to Levator, made this little folder to keep everything neat that we don't put on the online or an email. We want to store some files, but this was in particular for the Sankofa journey. That's what I'm about to tell you about. Sankofa. Sankofa is a word from Ghana. Ghana, we know, is a country on the continent of Africa. 2,000 or 3,000 languages in Ghana. So this is from the Tree language. It's spelled T-W-I, but it's pronounced tree, like a tree, the T-R-E-E. So just pronounce it like that. It's from that language. It means it's not forbidden to look back so we can move forward. Hey man, before I get into the Sankofa mission in Sherman, just to be real with you, they don't want us to look back on history. Because when you look back on history, you realize that you are the world history. You are the world history. I'm talking to black people. The reason why black history is not told the way it is because you are the history of the world. So many accomplishments that you made before Europeans came out and started to take over the world and accomplish things. You know, you got to understand, Egypt had went through a dark age, an ice age. Wasn't nothing going on there in Europe. So you had people, man, we got empires. We talk about Kush, which is Nubia, or modern day Sudan, had more pyramids than Egypt. That was the brother. That was the brother country of Egypt. They was always trying to compete. Man, my country better than yours. Nah, well, look at this pyramid. They was going hard, gold. It's going down, knowledge, spitting out knowledge. These are the gods of the earth. Hey, they was teaching the world. So they taught Europeans, Greeks, Romans, people who came after the dark ages and ice ages, they came to get knowledge. So they taught them. The Moors, we know what the Moors did in Spain. We know that African people left and went up the Nile and traveled all over the world and populated the earth. We all come from one. We come from one, to be exact. One race. Throughout time, getting away from the equator and different cultural situations and environment, getting away from maybe the master language, or, you know, you lose stuff over time. We talking about generations of thousands of years of people going all over the earth and populating and becoming lighter skin or what have you, or different features. So yeah, everything came from one. So those are great accomplishments. That's why they don't want to tell that. So Sankofa is a word from Ghana meaning let's look back so we can move forward. Look at that mighty history. Because once you look at that history and you realize that that history is important as it is and as massive and great as it is, you're going to have a certain self-esteem about yourself. See, that's what this word is about, self-worth. What you think of yourself is what you'll do for yourself. If you think less of yourself and you think, oh, I just come from a people with slavery. You ever realize Black history in America starts with slavery? Man, that's the biggest, weirdest thing ever told. I remember I gave a speech. I went all the way back to the motherland. Then they had a pastor come up talking behind me, talking about, we was in cotton fields and they was slapping cattle like those. That little bullshit speech they give. That wasn't, man, that's part of your history. That's when when you brought light to the world, the light of the world that got put out by these people when they colonized the earth. So that's later in history. And America is only not that old in comparison to the rest of the world. So they're going to teach you what they want. They know if they go too far back, you're going to realize who you are, how great you are, where you come from, your relationship with God, who you're supposed to be. Just being real. So Sankofa can actually be used in our lives. Take away history, but only history pertaining to you. The things that you done when you were a kid, the ideas that you had, what you wanted to be before the world told you who you should be. You had an idea of what you wanted to do. Have you done that? So, I mean, I know I didn't. I think I had law in mind, being a lawyer. So I haven't done that. So, but Sankofa could mean this. You look back on your life and say, man, let me go ahead and do what I wanted to do. I've been doing this for 20 years. I just got in the habit of working and paying bills and going from this job. I started a career over here. But what did you really want to be when you were young? Some of you are what you wanted to be. Some didn't. So Sankofa could mean that. Go back and revisit that and see if you can become that. It's not too late. So what we're doing in Sherman, the Sankofa Journey, this is the biannual. We had one in June during Juneteenth. We're having one February 4th. Mark your calendars, 2023. Less than a month from now. So here's the deal. Sherman had a rich history around the time of the Great Depression of 1929, the stock market crash, 1929. These things was going on. It was bad for the country. Sherman was considered the Athens of Texas, or the Athens of the world, Athens of Texas. If you know about Athens, how well they done, Sherman's community, although it was segregated, done really well on the white side of town and the black side of town. So while everybody else was suffering around the United States, Sherman was thriving. Sherman had a thriving black business district. Why was it the black business district? Because we were segregated by law. White people didn't want us in society with them. So we created our own society within our own self. And you know what happens when you do that? You know how Chinatown is, or how the Mexican community or Hispanic community are band together, and the Asian community are band together. African communities who come to America were band together. Arab and Indian communities who have come to America to live the American dream, they band together in small units. So if you're circulating that money around amongst yourself, what's going to happen? You're creating black wealth. You're creating Indian wealth. You're creating wealth for those who, the Irish, the Germantown up in Philly. I know everybody live there now, but it was established, for Germans. You got all types of little Italies. You got all these different towns, and their money is circulating amongst themselves. So you're creating wealth. In the black community in Sherman, they created wealth. Wealth. You had, man, I know this is small for now, but in 1930, that was pretty well. Just think about it. Slavery had ended, it was 1865 in Texas, right? it was 63. What was it? What is it, y'all? The Juneteenth history. Damn. So Texas, it was 1865. Whatever, I think Texas was 2 years late. So it was 63 maybe originally, and then went out to Galveston, told everybody, oh, we're free. So Texas came a little late. I think it was 1865. So you got 35 years left in the 1800s, and you got 1930. That's 65 years, man. 65 years out of slavery. That's just one generation. That's 2 generations, right? 2 generations out of slavery. Meaning that a baby born in 1865 would have been 60 years old, would have been 65 years old at the time of the riot. So you got the time of the riot. I got some next. You got the time of the riot. Black wealth, doctors' offices, lawyers' offices, movie theaters. This guy had a 2-story building with 7 or 8 businesses inside of it. You know, like you might go to one of the tallest buildings in Sherman over there, that Grand Avenue building, that tall building over there. It has a lot of different businesses inside. Or you go to, I guess that's Sherman skyscraper. So if you go to the city, you'll see those big buildings downtown, towering over the city with so many offices inside and so many different businesses and organizations using that space. So this brother had one. He was humble. It was so many other businesses, restaurants, dining halls, two funeral parlors, right there competing. People died. They had to take care of people. But you had a civil rights attorney's office if you turn and go down East Street. That was on Mulberry. Then you go down East Street and head to the area where we grew up at the park. They had Dr. William Durham's office was down that way. The church Payne Chapel is very unique to me and great. Payne Chapel was sending money to Ethiopia in 1930. In Africa, they were sending money to help offset the war that Mussolini in Italy was attacking and waging against the Ethiopians. So the Ethiopians were fighting, and keep in mind, Ethiopia is the only African country that didn't get colonized. Haile Selassie whooped his ass, sent him back to Italy. But American dollars, Black American dollars, African American dollars from the African American community, Payne Chapel Church, African Methodist Episcopal Church, was sending money to Ethiopia back then to help them fight in that war. That's very unique. They had money. They was doing good. That's great. Hey, man, I love that history. And we got the pastor of that church, the current a lady coming out, Miss Janice Barnes, Pastor Janice Barnes. She came out last time. She said some words and prayed, and she gonna come out and do it again. So come out to this. It was another church. It was Harmony Baptist, I believe. I think that was the name at the time. Right now, it's a church. It has Spanish writing outside, so I don't know the culture of the people, but it's Iglesia, on there. I forgot the name of the church, but it was the old Harmony Baptist. If any of you been to that church, I remember the churches over in East, as we call it, North Side. It's actually East Sherman. They were, we would go to all the vacation Bible schools. So I ended up in that church one time or twice. I think they had the basement with classrooms, I believe, kind of like the old Harmony. But yeah, so that church has a crack in it from the riot, either from the dynamite or from someone shooting at it. So it has the original crack in it. That's something to see. We're going to go also to the hanging site where George used 2 hanging sites, possibly they haven't narrowed it down to where when they bombed the courthouse, they drug him down the street and they hung him to a tree and they burned it. And then they burned the businesses. One question I have, what does a so-called rape have to do with you burning businesses? The joke's on you. You lied for years. It was never rape. It was never battle rape. You wanted to burn those businesses. Keep it real. George Hughes didn't have no goddamn business over there. He didn't own any property over there. So you wasn't taking it out on him. So he was the scapegoat. He was the economic sacrifice. So you can come take that. So here we are. We're going to there. We're going to the Natures. We started at 200 Mulberry, which is where the 2-story building was that the brother owned, a successful farmer for males. They had the 7 or 8 businesses inside. That's where we started. Then we're going on down 2 more, 3. It's a lot of unique spots in that history. So we're going to go on down and we're going to we'll pass by where the Masonic Lodge was, and we'll pass by where the Alexander Bate had his house. He was an educator who fended off the mob. I think some young guys came over there and they had, they was about to set it on fire. They were going to set the Masonic Lodge on fire, and they was going to set his house on fire. I believe him or his son might have gotten on the roof with a rifle, and Alexander stayed down below with a pistol. He drew down on them from the story, and they didn't burn it. They just left. I'm sure he said some words to them and recognized them. Masons in the community, they know a lot of people, so across the board, and that a lot of times is what kept the good relations in Sherman and any other town like that. The leaders in the community keeping the peace. So where else? Oh, man. It blows my mind to find out that William Durham's home is still up. William Durham was a civil rights attorney, NAACP president, worked on, specialized in insurance claims. We're getting there. I will get there. I will expound on that, Amanda. So, the home that William Durham had was still there. When I found out, I went and touched the bricks just to touch it, and I just found that out last year. Growing up in that community, passed by the house all the time, never knew that there was a William Durham's home. William Durham and Thurgood Marshall, first African-American Supreme Court Justice, studied together, had tea in that home, ate dinner or lunch in that home, strategized in that home. Some parts of Brown versus Board of Education was talked about in that home. Brown versus Board of Education is what integrated the schools, stopped the segregation of schools, brought everybody together. So, because they had this separate but equal thing going, and it wasn't equal. So we were separate. So that brought that together. So, Dr. Porter, across the street from that home, Dr. Porter drew down on him. Hey, I smile in those areas, man, because it makes me feel good. I'm a scribe. I consider myself a scribe, but at the same time, I do believe in defending self and home, property, family, your wife, your children. I don't care who the invader is. You're not going to let some knucklehead run in your house. So it don't matter who the invader is, they're wrong. Some people hid in the pig pen. Some people didn't have nothing to fight with. I disagree with that. Never, ever, ever leave yourself in a situation to just be murdered by somebody. You always fight because it's bigger than you. You got children, you got a wife. You might as well cut your nuts off as a man if you gonna let somebody beat you in front of your wife, hang you. You volunteering your own death when you participate or let them do it. Man, you better fight for your woman and children like it ain't no tomorrow. So that's what that is. Dr. Porter drew down, ran him off. They arrested him, I believe, the next day for some unregistered weapon. He beat the charge, no big deal. That's some of the spots we're going to look at. It's a walking tour. We got 2 buses, and I'm going to give a huge shout out to Pastor Johnson at Daniel House of Deliverance. Last year, he let us use the church bus. This year, that brother sent a fleet of buses. We got 2 buses through Pastor Johnson's good guy, Levada Owens, part of Grayson United, and a member of that church. Was man, that was crazy last year. I was like, man, Levada, I didn't put together. So we put together this event, and I promised these people church buses. We don't have that. She said, I got the keys. You just need to meet my pastor, talk to him. Man, I talked to that pastor. He said, when you use our bus, that was the first thing he said. So I said, whew, got a bus. So that brother, I met with him. I've been to the church, seen him, I think, at the NAACP banquet after that, shook hands. Good brother. I'm going to get over to that church again. That is because that was what they call a ram in the bush. Much needed. And they're coming through again. So that bus is for those who are the elders and the disabled. Get on that bus. Last year, Kurt Chakowski, one of the organizers from the historical marker from the Sherman Riot of 1930, him and Melissa Thiel, Jan, I can't think of the other lady's name. They are Kurt. Like I said, they help organize some of this history. Who else to partner with other than people who into history? They love the history. They've been digging stuff up. Hey man, I could tell the story, but to have people working with you who can tell the story in a good way, a better way, let them present that, man. And people should humble themselves. People are, well, when I was trying to do something, nobody, hey man, get on board now. Get on board. Learning about that, most people are going to want to do something. You can't just find out information and sit on it. Some people can, but a lot of people are like, well, what can I do to make things better? So getting into making things better, Amanda asked the question, what parts of that unique history past do we need to bring to the present? So the first Sankofa, very first Sankofa journey that we had last year was called Back to Business in Sherman. Back to business in Sherman. What was burned down? The businesses. Get back to business in Sherman. When you go around and you see so many people, and we got some small businesses now, but just think if they wasn't burned down, where we would have been. So you say, well, that's the past. Well, learn from that. So what I'm saying is we need to do a little more. Why? I'm not talking about the ones who have it established already. I'm talking about those who may be doubting yourself. Those who just don't think that you may be able to do it. Those who think that you might not have the resources to do it. Start thinking it, and then the world will shift in your favor, and you'll get what you need. So there are some who probably want to be entrepreneurs but haven't stepped into it. Hey, those people had it before. They were doing really well. Do it again. So that's the message. Back to business in Sherman. The word Sankofa within itself means it's not forbidden to look back so that you can move forward. So you look back at that history and you learn from it and you build. You build again. We got so many people with businesses here. We have to pay other people for things we need when we were some of the most unique and great business people in Sherman at the time. A rich history. Once you get burned down, burned out, terrorized, you might not want to admit it. You stop wanting to try. It kills your self-esteem. It kills your self-worth. And the racism that came along with it. So let me talk about this positive stuff, but I got to talk about the effects of things. Because if you don't talk about what led up to something, you can't even get past it. So, because you'll do it again. So you need to understand what led up to it. After slavery, that was the time to build wealth. 65 years later, Sherman was Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. That's 9 years before what happened in Sherman. So you deduct the 9 from the 65. What do you have, 56? 56 years after slavery, you had a flourishing community burned down. So now there's a stigma, because if we were in that state of mind now, there'd be way more black businesses in Sherman right now. I'm just being real. If you look at the amount of immigrants who have come here after those events, and I'm not knocking anybody, but they're doing way better than us business-wise. The population, you remember the year, let's talk about rate different, let's compare the African American community in Sherman to the Hispanic community in Sherman, the Mexican community. Let's compare them. Because to be real with you, in the 80s, it was just a handful of Mexicans in Sherman. Now, that we knew of. And we knew those families. The Allemans were here. Freddie Mexican was here. Madrano. Big Jesse on Ross Street was here. And I think Big Jesse and Freddie them was related. Our classmate Ray Rivera, I think he was a nephew of them. So, and a few more. Now it's totally different. Totally different. So you see the businesses that they're throwing up to represent their community. Hispanics, Mexicans, and Sherman have a lot of businesses. Whether it's starting with the food trucks first, to getting the restaurants, to upgrading and doing, they got everything. Insurance, anything they need, they have set up. We lost that. We lost that nick to do that again. We need to do that again. Business, back to business in Sherman. That was the theme last year from the Sankofa journey, and that's the same thing. Build again. Sankofa also, I'm going to talk about the destruction of different black communities all across America. But Sankofa, we also have, we are working on some proposals to give to get done with the area. We want to revitalize the area. If you look at parts of Sherman, downtown is looking good. You look at the College Park Overlay District, it's looking good. 2 streets, or 1 street in the middle, which was the historic black business district, looks horrible. It's a black eye for the city. It's nothing good to look at. Looks like 1930. Some parts of it, Nature Source building, I think it's 2 buildings behind it, look fairly new. But the rest, you see some 10 buildings on one side. For it to be such a great area, I think that we should put something there to let them know what a great area that it was. So I would like the support of people in the community, Amanda, you, other people in the community, to come on board with that idea, to revitalize it and make it a beautiful place. Let's make it a beautiful place with artwork, possible statue, something significant so that people come to this town and be proud of what it once was right there. Instead of the horrible scar. And it will continue to be a horrible scar when nothing's done. Because we planting seeds to young children who are going to demand more. People think I'm radical. Wait till you talk to the youth. The youth, I'm 49 years old. So you got the youth thinking they 30s and 20s. This is why they don't want them to have this knowledge. Because they're going to bring some kind of change. The youth always bring change. College students, they bring change. So that's what that is. But we must understand that it happened in Sherman in 1930. It happened in Tulsa in 1921. It happened in Rosewood, Florida, I believe, in 1919. I can tell you how it happened all over the United States. I just wrote a book talking about that. I'm connecting the dots because it was a conspiracy during the period of Reconstruction, 1865. Reconstruction started in 1865, 1867. It was the time they was going to reconstruct this nation. You know, after slavery was over with, it was the time for us to leave the plantation, get more wealth. Some went back to the plantation to work on that same plantation, but for money. Some went up to the Midwest, the North, East Coast, out West, different places. Some had a little money and bought some land here. So some people just went to where their family was. Those who went and escaped in the Underground Railroad that went up north to Canada. Some people migrated to Canada, but it was no restrictions. So what the white Americans decided to do, well, let's put them back into another form of slavery with the Jim Crow laws in the South, the voting restrictions. You can't vote. The grandfather clause. If your grandfather didn't vote, you can't vote. Different gerrymandering and outright terrorism. They bombed churches, killed little girls, 4 little girls in Birmingham, Alabama. We call it Birmingham. They blew those little girls up. They murdered our leaders. We saw what happened with Emmett Till. We saw what happened with Medgar Evers gunned down in his driveway just for getting people to vote. You had Dr. King, dog sicked on him, sent to jail, and still got murdered. They talked him into talking about nonviolence, and they killed him with violence. Killed X. They killed Malcolm. They killed Kennedy. They killed so many people who was not with their white supremacist agenda. So they destroyed every economically stable black community. In this book, I talk about how they went up in New York. And usually I'm going to say this, it was the poor white class along with the African Americans Yes, sir. T-Bone, Corey Taylor. Yeah, all right, Troy. I see you on there. Troy, I hope you can make it up to the Sankofa journey. I know you said you would, man. Hopefully your brother's doing well in the Houston area, Beaumont. If you can, get down here, man. T-Bone, come down here, man, to the Sankofa journey on the 4th. Yes, sir. So, it was the poor whites, the Irish. When you go to Chicago and New York, it was the Irish community. Keep in mind, the Irish was, if you wasn't around, the Irish would be the nigga. Hey, man, they was Irish. I think they were the ones who they tried to make indentured servants. And there's somebody enlightened us. I think Mr. Barry Rubart let us know that they wanted to come here to get away from Ireland as indentured servants. But some was forced into it. They was the first people they tried to enslave from the history I was taught. The Irish, man, was dirt poor, getting treated bad. But a lot of times they would have rage against the government, but they'll take it out on us. Randy, yes, sir. Man, I didn't cover the lot. We'll have to rewind it. But yeah, man, so in New York, the Irish, man, they was doing bad. They were still drafting people until the Civil War. So I forgot what year. It was probably 1860, 60. Before slavery ended, it was right around the time when it was ending. The Civil War was almost over, but they were still drafting people. African Americans weren't considered citizens, so they didn't get drafted. So they both shared jobs on the dock. They were dock workers. And because that right there that we done was doing just as good as them or better and didn't have to get drafted. They had a problem with the government, but the anger spilled out on us. They slaughtered. We was in Manhattan, bro, in New York. They was in Manhattan, and now you see the demographics. They're in Queens, the Bronx. They wasn't there originally. They were in Manhattan. They was in certain areas living a different life. but they was ran out. They was pushed out. They was getting murdered. It was a slaughter. So they escaped the best way they could. That's why the demographic shift in New York right now, the 5 boroughs is fucked up. A bunch of ghettos and projects and murders, crime and drugs. And they got pushed out of Manhattan and other good parts. That happened in New York. Chicago wasn't even segregated, but they had understood separation. You stay away from me, you don't come to our side, you stay in your place. But there was no law that said that they couldn't get together. They had black policemen, blacks in Congress and Senate in Illinois. So Chicago was doing good. A young brother was they was swimming in the lake. He was on a float. The float floated over the imaginary line into the white side of the lake that God created now. So he floated over. A white citizen picked up some stones and stoned him, killed him. He drowned. Black cops went over to arrest him. The black cop ended up getting beat and arrested. All hell broke loose in Chicago. 1,000 homes burned. They ran them out. They went into Missouri. Some went back to the South where they had came from. A lot of black folks in Chicago come from Mississippi and Texas. That was the route to go. Some of you might have some relatives in Chicago, or if you're in Chicago viewing, you got some relatives in Mississippi, Georgia, or something. So a lot of them migrated because Chicago at the time had a bunch of plants and factories. It was popping, and you wanted to work and make some money. Brothers was going to get that bread. So the Irish in Chicago was mad, and they burned up so many churches. So when you start talking about the destruction of property, after, first of all, you work for free, then they come back and destroy everything you build, your churches, your homes. Man, you destroy wealth. You just, not just the businesses, wealth. And the churches was where the leaders met up to get things done. In Elaine, Arkansas, it was slightly different. A lot of blacks went back to the farms that they worked on the plantation at. So they went to Elaine, sharecroppers. This is what they would do. And this is what happened with George Hughes in Sherman. George Hughes worked on a farm out of Luella. So think about that. You can make money from a white man, but you can't spend it with him. So you're taking that money back to the black community. The black community is on point already. George probably over here doing some work. Then he went out there and got that money. They didn't want to pay him. If we want to understand, it was just some chump change, $1 or $2, like $1.15 or $2.15. I can't remember. Probably worked a month or two for that amount of money back then. They didn't want to pay him. So in Sherman, this was the problem. This is why we know it was about the money. White farmers in Sherman had a problem with one another, just like the Irish in New York had a problem with the white government, but they took it out on the blacks, right? So in Sherman, the small white farmers got eaten alive by the big farmers here. So Sherman, let's say for instance, they had 20 farms here operating. Well, they said, how can you go from 20 farms to 3 and still be the farming capital of the area? Doing really well, creating wealth. Well, a few mediocre farmers, 3 mediocre farmers ate up the other 17 small. So these 3 mediocre become big giants. So they cut out some of their own people. They was pissed. Who did they take it out on? Like in New York, the black businesses in Sherman. It was always about the money. The roost is over with. The game's done. The curtain is drawn. We're pulling sheets off. We're digging up truths. You did it all over the world. It was a conspiracy. It was a conspiracy to send us back to slavery. Keep in mind that all these laws that were started in the Jim Crow South to keep you enslaved. Emancipate just means to change ownership. It didn't mean to free. So you became a slave in another sense. So when they went to settle the wages in the South, in the Elaine massacre in Arkansas, that's when the lynchings would occur. They lynched George Hughes. He was the economic sacrifice. They've done this all over the United States. Hey, when this book get out, this book should be out next month. It's Amazon's putting some stuff together right now. It's called Get Out of the Pig Pen. I'm talking about this. They hid in the pig pen in Sherman, but it's other similarities of what the pig pen represented in this book. The child in the Bible who went off, got away from his father's teachings. He ended up working in a pig pen. It was so horrible, he said the pigs was eating better than him. So, the father had two other sons that was doing the right thing. He said, if my son had just come home and get out of that filthy pig pen and get back to the ways of the father. I ain't preaching here today, but we need to get back to those ways. Get out of this man, working for others in these businesses around here. They don't treat you right. You got one black leader. That's what they do. They raise up one black leader, one or two, and that's supposed to be our level of success. Oh, they doing good. You got a black city councilman. You got a black, okay. No power to the people though. So you got to create that power. And you got to do it again. That's what this is about. Get out of the pig pen. Clean the filth from your eyes so you can see straight. And do it again. Get back to the ways of the Father. In the scripture, the Father said we're supposed to have wealth. You working for people, man. And I don't, this is any white person, any white friend I got. I feel the same way, man. I'm sure they feel the same way. You working for somebody else, you just getting them rich. And we all slaves in that sense. But if you got an entrepreneurial spirit, you can build wealth within your family structure, and pass that wealth down. Especially second generation business owners and third. When you get past, most mom and pop businesses, to be honest with you, fail after that generation. They don't have nobody to run it. So when you got more money into it, you can run more enterprise, then you'll do way better. But we have to try it again. They want to intimidate you and say that you can't, but the evidence is there. Even after slavery, no matter where we go, we rebuild. We build again. After slavery, we created that wealth. It is what it is. Tulsa, I skipped over Tulsa. Tulsa was the nicest of them all. Tulsa had over 300 operating black businesses. It was 3 blocks, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, what they call the Black Wall Street. Tulsa was out of control with wealth. These were World War I veterans who had came back and build right there in Tulsa, in the middle of nowhere. And Tulsa had a lot of all black towns, what they call free towns after slavery, but Tulsa just took control. And Tulsa was the first time the blacks in the community dug the trenches before they left the hood. They dug the trenches and then went downtown to address the issue. So they were prepared, so they thought. A young man, 19 years old, same old thing, accidentally touched the white girl on the elevator operator. So they say. Okay. So in Tulsa, the brother said, well, they lynching white people in Oklahoma. Oklahoma didn't give a damn. It was vigilante justice, so they was lynching white people. They said, well, we know if they lynch them, they gonna lynch him. That brother didn't even die. They dug them trenches, went downtown, scared the hell out of everybody. I think some shots rang out. A few people died. They retreated, went back to the community. And I guess, I think they was prepared, but the government started helping the white people. Trains started coming in with weapons for them. They dropped bombs from airplanes from the sky. So I'm thinking, I was told that the Gap Band from Tulsa, that's what that stood for, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. In the song, You Dropped the Bomb on Me, baby, you dropped the bomb on me. You turn me on and you turn me out. You dropped the bomb on me. So they turn them on to business. They learn capitalism. They done really well. Then you drop the bomb on me from the sky. I don't know if that's true, if that song symbolizes that. I was told that. I haven't read that anywhere, but it's still a good message. Sometimes some things don't have to be true to give a good message. Like we debate over, Willie Lynch letters ain't even real. It is real. It ain't real. Man, don't debate over it. Did you get the lesson? You got the lesson. There's a lot of folk tales, period, in scripture, in the Bible, the Quran. Things that are allegorical, have allegory meanings and different similitudes. Something that's similar to something, but not necessarily that. A tall tale. It's just meant to teach you a lesson. So don't get caught up on whether it's true or not. Did you get the lesson? That's what the Sankofa journey is about in Sherman. In your community, trust me, it's some stuff that's covered up. Deep Ellum in Dallas was black community. Central Park in New York was a black community. Do you know that the cities in America that were black towns that they made lakes over? I'm talking about the people's shit was still under there. I ain't talking about people moved out and they moved their houses. They was paid for their property. No, they slaughtered the people and filled it up with water. That's crazy. It's a place somewhere, I think in Mississippi, called the Devil's Swimming Pool or something, where they was throwing blacks off a cliff into the water. I always heard that it was a town under Lake Texoma. Then I heard it was 2. Now I heard that it was 4. It's 4 towns under Lake Texoma, and 2 were black towns. I heard this. Somebody told me that. They got towns in America under lakes, man, that used to be black towns. Houston, I put it in the book. Black military against white military. They tried to come and arrest I think a soldier, a civilian cop, I believe, tried to arrest a soldier. Something happened, and that soldier wasn't trying to hear it. I wrote this in the book. I need to read that again. And I know that it was a little war that took place. A lot of people was court-martialed. I think one person was hung. The military. I think Emancipation Park is where it happened at. Malika, you on here? I think that was in 3rd Ward, maybe. Wherever Emancipation Park is. So that was an incident where they had to come in with, I believe, martial law, like in Sherman. Sherman, if you saw the video, it's a YouTube video about the Sherman riot. Man, look it up. You had dudes in there that was like 14 years old, hitchhiked from Denison, skipped school to get over here. They said it was over 10,000 people out there. And when you look at the dudes on the video, they excited telling the story. They rocking and shit like they busted a nut. Yeah, they threw him down like a sack of potatoes. Yeah, they drug him. They was just all excited. So some of these kids helped participate in that. They took parts of his body home, cut his penis off. You know, come on, man. Your sick fantasies, not just murder. You playing with a man's dick after he dead. You done brought the Greek culture out in you. That don't even make sense. So they took parts of this man. It was just brutal. It was brutal. Yes, indeed. The family needs to be compensated. If somebody breaks into jail while you're in it, come from the outside, bomb the jail, get into jail, and murder you, that jail's liable to take care of your family. This is why they try to say George Hughes has no known descendants. People say that they are related to him. Then they say, well, we can't. Let's do a DNA on him, but we don't know where his body is. You know where it's at. It's been passed down for generations. Secret knowledge where he's buried at. Out in Pecan Grove Park somewhere. They didn't probably put the lake over it, build a house over it. Might be a tree that grew by it so that they always know. We resume the body, do a DNA like the feds do. The feds want to look at everything else. Go look at that. Go look at that. you know, help society. But we know how that worked, right? J. Edgar Hoover, leader of the Fed, said, my main goal is to stop the rise of a black messiah. So that's what you got. If you got oppressed people, a messiah is going to come from amongst those people. Jesus, they was following a star. They knew Jesus was about to be born. They said, kill all the male children because we know it's going to be a male. It's going to be a male in that society that's going to raise up. So you kill all the male children. You imprison them. You get a felony on them. You know the story. You make life harder for the black male children here. I'm talking about America. I'm talking about the Bible back then, but understand the similarities. When they know it's an oppressed people, they try to get rid of them. So you got during the 60s, J. Edgar Hoover said, I'm going to stop the rise of a black messiah. They murdered Fred Hampton. They murdered the Panthers wholesale. That's what they done. So I think in the time of Egypt, and so a lot of times, again, stories are there. Some people say, well, these stories are fake. Hey, man, stories are meant to teach you a lesson. They did the same thing in Egypt. We know a male child's going to come save the people. I think they had to hide Moses. Pharaoh sent out a decree. I think they had to hide Moses in a basket in the river. Mixed him in. He looked like an Egyptian child. So they, as the story says, the mom said, or the sir mom said, oh, he's an Egyptian baby. So they didn't kill him. But they put a decree out, Pharaoh and Herod, during Jesus' time, put a decree out to kill all the male children. Same thing here in America. Man, when they planted dope in the community, created gangbanging. We know what our gangs, so-called gangs in the community was for. Yeah, they was protecting the community, doing good things for the people. And they still are. They still good people. But when you got people who are poor and oppressed, a criminal element comes with it. So instead of them maturing in their own right and becoming who they need to be, they get sidetracked with the crime. Let's talk the same way with Chicago, all the crime in Chicago. I mentioned earlier how Chicago had so many factories and good places to work. It was like that up until the 60s. So you take off the south side of Chicago, you take all these factories and plants. They said back then you could quit a job on this side of the street in Chicago, go to the other side and get hired. They said it was just so much gravy on the table, meat and gravy on the table. So now you take all those factories out of there, take those jobs out of there. Fred Hampton had 500 NAACP youth members, the biggest ever in the nation, and he was teaching them. You murder him, you take the jobs out. What do you got? Crime. You got a dysfunctional people. You kill the leader of the kids, so the kids are disillusioned. This is why you don't center yourself around one leader. You develop many leaders so the mission can go on. When they get rid of a leader, that community should be ready to move forward with whatever's going on. That's the way that's supposed to go. So Chicago, they created a vacuum, and that's what you have the Chicago of today, right now. All about economics. Take them, and again, these are places where people relied on to work for other people. When you create the business again, you work for self, you create wealth, and never let nobody burn it down again. I'm about to go, man. I'm gonna invite you again to the Sankofa Journey. If you didn't make it last time, come out to the Sankofa Journey. Saturday, February 4th, Sherman. What's up, Wayne? Yeah, I think I do be preaching sometimes, man. I like to cuss. I guess that is a good preacher. So yeah, Sankofa Journey, February 4th, 2 p.m. Bring your children. Bring your children. Hey, in the future, we will be giving out. We be giving out scholarships or field trips. I learned from one of my members a long time ago. One of our secretaries said, you know, everybody gives scholarships, $250. Sometimes that just buy one book. It's a little help, some gas, whatever, help anybody. But you take somebody on a field trip and show them a memory of something great, it'll go a long way. And give them a scholarship too. So hopefully in the future, you know, the kids will get more enlightened. There is a church in Sherman right now. I believe last year they gave a scholarship, Grace United Church, Pastor Frank Dreener. They give out scholarships for those who write about that event that happened. So in the future, Grace United would be giving something like that, or donating to some of the other scholarship funds in the community, and definitely taking people on field trips so we can see things, you know, and see other parts of the world. Go to Tulsa and see what they're doing with Wall Street now. Again, we're trying to get Sherman back on point. But Saturday, February 4th, 2 p.m., be there and be square. Come out and celebrate with us. We're singing along. We got a marching choir with us. They're going to lead us in some songs. We're going to stop and educate. It's just an hour and a half of your time. Man, you send the National Guard in there, they're going to murder a bunch of people. Man, I don't know, bro. You know, when guns and drugs are in the community, somebody's making it available. Now, I know that's the economics they have. So it'll make your son in Chicago. Yeah, when you put the law enforcement in things, man, it just don't turn out right for us sometimes. So I wouldn't even trust that the military do anything good by them. They'll probably do more harm than good. Probably be some resistance, and that'll give them, you know, too much government, man. I think that's the problem. When police and military come in contact with us, they don't treat us right. If it was somebody we could trust, yeah, I would go with that. That'd be a good idea. But nah. But yeah, man, Saturday, February 4th, Sankofa Journey, take an hour and a half of your time. And I think I covered everything. Just to patrol. I don't know, man. You know, I think everything is for a reason. Man. Somebody told me this one time. I asked a brother from Chicago. He might be on the live. When I worked at a hotel in the Dallas area, there was a guest brother from Chicago. He was running trucks, driving trucks it was a family business. I think him and his brother, him and his uncle. He was driving, he would make money on the trips. You know, he was taking care of his business, man. And I asked him about the killing in Chicago. This is what he said. He said, man, them young niggas up there killing, so they'll show these other folks that when it's time, it's time. So, man, your warrior class, some people may disagree with this. Your warrior class in society, man, sometimes you need them boys like that. Because once they find out who they are and why they should be unified and why they shouldn't be fighting, once they realize that and they know who have been oppressing them, you're going to need them boys to stay gangster. And I'm just being real with you. I'm talking about self-defense. Call it what you want to. Oh, you talking about violence. If that's what you heard, I don't care. That's what you heard. But what I'm saying is, when people attack you and you say you nonviolent, I don't know. No, I ain't never met nobody nonviolent. Everybody I knew, somebody hit them, they're going to hit them back or they're going to start fighting. I've met a person or two who was timid. Somebody hit them and they run off, don't do nothing. But never, not really in the environment I was in growing up. People fought. Somebody hit you, you better hit them back. And that's what we taught. That's what we taught in the household. But for some reason, even in the household back then, in the 60s, they was taught that somebody hit you, you hit them back. Also, black folks was violent in Vietnam. But when you come to America and that racism and oppression get on you, you better not be violent. Don't even make sense. Someone's killing you and you just sit there and start praying. Don't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So you need those people, man, your warrior class of people, only if they knew who they are. No, they don't. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue because they in their own little world in Chicago. They surviving. They wrapped up in what they know. And a lot of them brothers know this knowledge, what I'm telling now. They could run this down just like this. Run it to a GD. Yeah, run it to any of them boys. I done ran into L. Brookins. People got knowledge, man. A lot of them brothers was in the Muslim community up there. They know Farrakhan. You know, it's but the triple stages of darkness, man. When you're in the triple stages of darkness, this is hard. It's hard to get out when the oppression is there. But if we keep planting seeds, man, you can win people over. Because it was a time, I know, when I was doing a lot of foolishness in the community when I was young. The same way. I read a book or two. I sat back, read a book. Well, they locked my ass up at first, to be honest with you. 19 years old, I was about that life. 20 years old, I was in TDC for being about that life. So, but in there, I got my GED, college degree, only an associate's degree in there. Read a lot of books, the knowledge I got, getting back on track. They call it a paradox of life, apparent loss being ultimate gain. I lost some years, but I gained myself, so I was able to come out and do something useful. So that's what that is, man. So I was able to sit down in a quiet place and get it together. If them brothers in Chicago could just mute out the noise, mute out everything around them, and a lot of times that's when they do change. They get locked up. You start thinking. You have time to think. So at first, your mind was just going. You was in the middle of everything. The Lord's sending you signs. You can't even think. But then you able to sit down now. Now you're going to hear the voice of God talking. And he's talking directly to you. What you going to do? Some going there and get worse. Just being real. Yeah. That music is something else, bro. A lot of times that's the environment they in, and that's what the executives have them rapping too. The executives want them to play gangster rap. Kanye just told us that. But I'm getting sleepy, y'all. I'm supposed to go. But thanks for tuning in on that. Don't forget the Sankofa Journey. Wayne, I would speak. I was about to come in because I've been gone all day. And I posted I'm going to go live at 5:30. I was about to go to sleep. Then I looked on there and Malika said, yeah, I'm going to tune in. I said, shit. So yeah, I'm tired, man. I've been doing farm work. I'm a farmer now. I'm out here raking leaves. Lesson learned. Don't rake leaves up on a windy day. Yesterday, man, leaves flying everywhere. So, but But today it was more sunny, but then I had stuff to do. So yeah, come out to the Sankofa journey. Appreciate you. All right, Wayne. Love you, bro. Hey, your cousin is coming too. Jerry Bowens. Jerry Bowens back in the early 2000s, maybe 2010, was trying to get a museum right there in that area. And he's coming out. He said he's going to support the Sankofa journey. Appreciate you getting his phone number for me. I was on the committee with that brother. All right, peace.